Hello, I'm Robert Berriot. Join me for a ride to my friend Jim's place in Chelsea, Quebec. We'll stop at some of the points of interest along the way. My plan is to stay overnight to test the new features of my bicycle camper. Before reaching the highway, I have to get out of the city. Thankfully, La Vérendrye Boulevard offers a bicycle trail just a block away from my home. In some places in Gatineau, the trails are pretty rough, like here, and when you're towing this trailer, you have to slow down quite a bit. Have to take this quite slowly, like what I'm doing 10 kilometers an hour here. And it's really rough. This is a nice part of the bicycle trail here along La Vérendrye Promenade. There's a noise wall along one side. Really does a lot to keep the road noise away. And it's certainly a lot prettier than just seeing cars and trucks go by. In order to get across the mountain that takes us to Limbourg, we have to go up this set of switchbacks, which is rather unique in this area because there's not very many mountains in this area, aside from hills. Wait. Whatever goes up must come down, so this is the downside here. So it's a single hill, a single long hill, as opposed to multiple switchbacks. Now we're crossing the Gatineau River on a bridge called the Alonzo Wright Bridge. Now we're facing downstream. We're about 3 kilometers from the Ottawa River, where the two rivers meet. We're now on Highway 105 after having gone up the 1 mile hill, and heading for Chelsea. Just took the turn off for Chelsea and heading to the visitor center for lunch. I'm going to sit down on a bench or at a picnic table and have my sandwich before turning around and heading for Jim's place. We're now downtown Chelsea. Downtown here isn't very big. It's only about a couple of 100 meters long, to tell the truth. There are several restaurants and cafes, and this is just at the entrance of the Gatineau Park. So now we're not very far from the visitor center, so we're heading there now. We've reached the visitor center, and now I have to find myself a place to sit down. It's really busy today because it's a weekend, it's a beautiful day, and it's also the last 2 weeks of July when the construction industry takes a break, a compulsory holiday during this period. So I might even have trouble finding a place to sit down. We'll see. All the tables and benches were taken, but I didn't care. I had my own table and chair. Can you believe that the visitor center is closed on one of the busiest days of the year? It seems as though the NCC, the National Capital Commission, which is responsible for the park, have decided that the situation is just too dangerous for their employees to go back to work. So they prefer to pay them to stay home doing nothing. Okay, I'm done with lunch and we're back on Highway 105 and we're still a few kilometers away from Jim's place. Here's a popular spot for tourists and local people as well. It's the Chelsea Smokehouse. So they sell smoked fish and that kind of thing. Here's another popular place, Les Fougères, which is a really good restaurant. If you live in the Ottawa area or if you're visiting and you want to sit down for a good meal, and if you're ready to put out the cost because it's not cheap, come to this restaurant. You certainly won't regret it. It looks as though there's a little shop here called Galerie Old Chelsea. So I'll go and have a look inside, see what there is there. Okay. And I guess they have a few doodads for sale as well. Oh yeah, actually it's a pretty nice little shop. And they have a refrigerated counter here. And what are these? Biological, organic flowers and that kind of thing. And preserves of some kind. What are those? Chutney. This is the kind of place you come to if you want to buy a present for somebody. Yeah, there was a stairway. Let's go and see upstairs. It says Gallery Old Chelsea upstairs. Nice and brightly lit. Bonjour. Mes amis et moi aimerions juste voir qu'est-ce que vous avez à vendre ici.
Ah, okay.
I was just telling the lady that my friends and me want to see what it is they have for sale here. Yes, they have. Local artists.
From the Quebec side and from the Ontario side.
Okay, so there's no discrimination between the two provinces. There are artists from both sides of the border.
That's correct. We are a group of 10 associates that work like a cooperative. We have not-for-profit status in the province of Quebec. And
Right.
you see, the gallery is currently only open 2 days a week because of the 10 associates, only 4 of us have no health risks ourselves or with our family members.
Oh.
But we also have a couple of artists in on commission. We have 2 fabric artists from Chelsea, Donna Troop and Deanne Lemire.
Well, this is really an unexpected turn of events. I was going up the last hill to Jim's place. It's a very steep dirt road, but there's no reason why Pedigo couldn't go up that hill with the trailer. Or maybe there is a reason, maybe it's just too heavy for it. So I climbed as far as I could and suddenly the motor just quit. So either the motor overheated, or maybe the battery overheated, or maybe there's a fuse in the battery, maybe the fuse blew. So I just phoned Jim. He's just a few hundred meters away from here. He's on his way down to give me a push. So we'll see what happens and we'll try to determine what the problem is. Fortunately, I have a second battery. Here we are. Behind the garage is the house, which I'll show you later. Now I'll go and set up camp. I'll show you the campsite that Jim had ready for me. He put out a chair and a table, and we're right by the pond. This is a pond on his property, and over the years, he's been manicuring the area and landscaping it and making it quite pretty. Ducks will come here, and even Yesterday he had 2 deer coming over, jumping around with joy apparently. The water is very, very low at present because it's been very dry. We've had very little rain for the past several weeks. So we got this little bridge. So there's, I could have camped at this end. I would have been a little further from the road. There's a road nearby, but it's just a country dirt road for the people who live in the area. So I don't think it's going to be of much bother for me. I can only hear one car going by once in a while. It's such a scorching hot day. Now I'm going for a much needed shower. Jim is the only guy I know who has an outdoor shower. And it's located in a strategic place on the property where you've got complete privacy. It's got hot and cold running water. If it was just cold, you know, the temperature of the ground is around 45 degrees Fahrenheit, so that's pretty cold. So mix in a little bit of warm water just to make it cool, or even coldish cool. Well, finally I'm settled down. I've had a shower, and now I can explain to you what happened. I was in the middle of the hill, or actually near the top of the hill, when the motor stopped, and I was sort of stuck there. My only option really was to turn around, go back down. I could have done that, but since I wasn't sure that the motor would be able to start again, and I had no idea what was wrong, I decided that best would be to call Jim. He was just a 2-minute walk from where I was, and have him help me push the bike the rest of the way up the hill. But it turned out that after 6 or 7 minutes sitting there, I decided to turn the battery off and turn it back on. There's a switch on that battery that allows it to turn off. So I switched it off and on and turned the computer back on, and it was working. But working very, very weakly. I was able to use the motor to coax the bike up the hill. If I'd got on it, when I did try getting on it, and it was just too much weight for it, but it was able to drag itself with the throttle the rest of the way up the hill, which is another reason why you should have a throttle on an electric bike. It's a very, very hot day, so that's why it felt so good to take a cold shower. A little later we're going to have supper, and we'll see if there's still time. If it's not too cloudy, we might go and see the sunset at the covered bridge. Jim and I are just preparing for supper. As you can see, we're doing the initial preparations. Cheers! I'll introduce you to my friend Jim, the creator of this domain that we visited.
Hi there, welcome. Hope you'll come and visit sometime. Cheers!
Cheers! How's the weather at your end?
Very good, yes. We'll get a little closer when this COVID thing goes.
Yeah.
Cheers.
After supper, we left for a short bike ride. This valley is known for its spectacular sunsets over the covered bridge, and just on the off chance that the clouds would lift, we took a little ride to spend a little while here. This is the Meech Creek Valley, which was settled by British, Irish, and Scottish immigrant farmers in the early 1800s. The covered bridge was built in 1932 and was famously completed from beginning to end, including the paint job, in just over 2 weeks. The land was expropriated in the 1970s by the National Capital Commission and now forms part of Gatineau Park. And now an image of the bridge has become the logo for the municipality of Chelsea. Unfortunately, the clouds didn't disperse and the sun disappeared behind them, showing none of the glory that we can sometimes enjoy. But as a consolation prize, I'll show you the picture I intended to take if I had had more luck and skill, but which I had to borrow from maplogs.com. While we waited for the clouds to disperse, I was having a closer look at Jim's new e-bike, which he bought through Costco online. It came with a baggage rack minus the white plastic board for holding a trunk bag and a kickstand. It's driven by a 36-volt, 350-watt Bafang geared hub motor, offers 9 levels of assist based on cadence sensing, and has mechanical disc brakes. It has a Shimano trigger shifting mechanism for the rear cassette that provides 9 gears. The display shows speed, odometer, assist level, and battery charge indicator. It comes with 700C 28mm tires. It's very sleek looking since the battery is completely concealed in the frame. This could prove a disadvantage if you live in an apartment because the battery can't be removed for charging, but that's no concern for Jim. Another thing to know is that the capacity is only 280 watt-hours, but that's fine for Jim since he uses the electric assist mainly for going up hills. The name is quite a mouthful to pronounce, RBSM Sports Pluto R. Because Jim rides very long distances, he had to buy a more comfortable saddle. The feature he likes best is the bike's light weight at 17 kilograms, which makes it easy to pedal with no electric assist. At $1,500, it's a lot of bang for the buck. So you're pretty happy with it, are you?
Very much so far, yeah, very much.
And you're able to climb that last hill to your place without any problem.
Yeah, my only concern is my lady friend beats me to the top because she cranks the power up a lot higher. I go up and about the system about 2. She cranks it up to 9, and I get chicked. She gets to the top before me.
You'll just have to crank it up, yeah. Jim. After our ride to the valley, I hit the haystack early. But in the middle of the night, I was awakened with a deafening thunderclap that made me jump up on my air mattress. Lightning and thunder were all around me, and the rain pelted down violently. I didn't think of turning on the camera until the lightning was over, but the rain sounded like this. I just woke up with this sound. Can you hear that falling? I was sort of half awake and I heard Jim's voice, and he comes along and puts this under the tent. So a cup of coffee for me, isn't that nice? So I guess I have to get up, and it's about time anyways. At 6:15, time to get up. Now we're enjoying the quiet and the lingering dampness of the rain. Let's go for a walk around the property. Actually, it might be more appropriate to call it an estate. From this vantage point, we can see a small structure surrounded by windows at the top of the house. Jim built this on the model of the widow watches found at the top of fishing village houses on the Canadian East Coast. He made it into a bedroom, which he uses on moonlit nights. But during the daytime, it provides a spectacular 360-degree view of the surrounding forest, the Gatineau River and the Gatineau Hills. Now we're on the other side of the house at the back, and we can see here that Jim really made good use of the position of the natural elements to place his house. And the house looks as though it actually belongs there. It looks a little bit like it must have grown out of the rock. From the driveway, we'll take a walk around to the front of the house, or the riverside view. Here also, Jim has used the features of the natural setting to carve out the landscaping. Where no wildflowers grew, he planted some cultivated varieties. This is one of his garages. At the back of this one is a large machine shop where you could find welding equipment, a metal lathe, and sheet metal tools. He also has a large variety of woodworking tools. He's so well equipped that he could build or repair just about anything. At the front is a lower deck and an upper deck. Over the years, he's done a lot of work at converting the dense forest into a park-like landscape, complete with lampposts. Now we've arrived at the lower deck where we had supper yesterday. From here we can see the Gatineau River. Up there is the upper deck from which Jim took this picture last winter. Jim is a very gregarious person, and he often has invited guests, but once in a while an uninvited guest arrives. Since I'm invited, now I'm going up for breakfast. Jim told me not to bring my own food. I didn't realize that breakfast came with this wonderful campsite that I have.
Coffee in your tent in the morning.
Coffee in the tent? Wow. That's just like having breakfast in bed. It's Sunday morning, 10:30, and I decided that I would head back home. Just the heat is absolutely horrible, and it doesn't do my body much good, so I decided that I'll be wise and not overdo it today on this really hot, scorching day. We're a few kilometers north of Chelsea, and I saw all these cars here, and I was wondering what it was. Actually, it's a golf club, Laramac Golf Club. We're at the top of the so-called 1 mile hill. I don't think it's a mile long, and I don't think it's all that terribly steep, but it's maybe the longest hill in all of the Gatineau city. I'm almost home now and gone just a bit more than 24 hours. So what did I learn from this short trip? The experience in the storm confirms that the improvements to the camper that I made this year haven't affected the watertightness of the rig. Not a drop got through. Also, the modifications I made this year are all functional. But more importantly, this once again shows that I'm ever more affected by heat. I'm more subject to heat stroke than when I was younger, that's for sure. Another of the effects of old age, I'm afraid. This means I'll have to avoid overexertion during heat spells. When traveling, I'll have to have a quick breakfast, like maybe a bowl of cereal, and pack up and ride during the cool hours of the morning in order to arrive at my next campground before noon. I'm still toying with the idea of getting a recumbent bike. Because of its stability, a trike could be equipped with a canopy which would provide protection against the sun. There is one I've seen that can easily be unclipped and rolled up when you don't want it, like on windy days. Tomorrow I'll have the chance to go for a ride on one, so that'll be instructive. It also confirms what I already knew, that the Pedigo motor isn't strong enough if I'm to travel in mountainous areas like the Laurentians. I need a motor with more torque for the long steep hills. Sometimes I lean towards a mid-drive, and sometimes I think that the GMAC geared hub motor by Grin Technologies with its enhanced regenerative braking would be best. So for my next trip next month, rather than heading for the Laurentians, I'll stay in eastern Ontario, western Quebec, and the eastern townships. There are many places I haven't been to in those areas, so I can save the mountainous areas for when I have the right bicycle for the purpose, next year. I'm almost there, so I'll leave you now and hope that you'll join me on my next trip. If you'd like more information about e-bikes and bicycle campers, and if you haven't already done so, subscribe to my channel by clicking on the red icon on the right bottom corner of your screen. And if you'd like to read exciting sailing stories or learn how to sail on other people's boats, have a look at my books at www.robertberrio.com. Thank you for having accompanied me, and until next time, never quit cycling.